Hey, Natsu here. Today I'm going to start one of the two other new series that I'm going to start on my channel. For the 7 total series that I'm going to do for the next month or two. This is what if Deku had the powers of Jake the Dog from Adventure Time. Basically, his powers are superhuman, super strength, like not that much, but like the bigger he is, the more he has muscle, or he can just grow his muscle to actually become stronger. Just in his normal form, he is still pretty strong for someone anyway. Um, Hell, in one episode he gets stretched to as thin as he possibly can, which is a lot longer than you would think, because he pretty much stretched all the way up to multiple kilometers in distance. At that point, he became super tiny, but even in that form, well, at that stage, he was able to. His strength was placed down a lot just by that. But he was still able to take Finn, lift him up, and pass him over a trench, blah blah, a hole with a lot of spike on the bottom of at least 10 meters. So he has a lot of strength, to be honest. I'm just going to place it out there. The reason he is that strong is because he is part alien, so it still counts as his power. Deku won't be half alien, it's just that he's going to have all of his power. He will have blue eyes and blue hair to basically do that part of the character. So instead of green hair, they're blue. And yeah, he can stretch a lot. As well as Jake can, well, it's not that big, but he does have a regeneration factor that at least allow him to heal about 1.2 times faster than a normal dog. Well, than a normal being in that world. So it is still pretty good. As well as he is able to actually grow more bones and stuff like that while he's stretching. He can even, if he wants to, take them out of his body and have new ones made inside of him almost instantly. He shows that only in one episode, but he still shows it. Um, Last thing is that at some point in the anime, for multiple episodes, he was blue, and he was able to have wings and fly, as well as later being able to access that power as much as he wants. When he turns blue, his power is basically augmented. He can stretch a lot more, a lot easily, and he can do stuff like grow wings and stuff like that that actually help him fly. So yeah, that's going to be a form that Deku's going to get later in the series, basically becoming completely blue and... Sorry, had to pause. Like I was saying, Deku's going to get the blue form later in the series, which will allow him to be a lot more powerful, but that's basically it. So yeah, basically his powers are abnormal strength, stretching, um, a small regeneration factor, and the capacity to literally lose bone and just be able to regrow them, which I don't know if he he needs to take the bones out of his body or if like someone literally steal it and it's going to regrow. But he can regrow bones easily. It does hurt him a lot, but he can still do it. And lastly, get a boost later in the series when he's turning blue. So, alright. Deku is born with blue hair and blue eyes, and at first, he doesn't seem to have the stretching power. One thing he has, though, compared to a normal baby, is that he's already kind of intelligent. Since Jake was born with the capacity to speak, walk, and stuff like that. Yes, it seemed to only be for a bit because we saw a lot more episodes later that he was young and he was just barking. So I'm not going to say Deku can talk because I think it was just kind of like a joke. But Deku is still kind of intelligent and can already walk. That's all I'm saying. Well, not on two legs, but basically on four. He's already capable of doing that. He's already strong enough to do it. And so he grows up. What they think he has is a super strength quirk because he is stronger than a normal baby. Well, than a normal kid. He will train a lot, so that strength will be increased, but for now, basically what he has is kind of just like 1.2 times what a baby can normally do, but it's still seeable since you don't see that happening normally. So he grows up with everyone thinking that that's his quirk. At school, the first year of preschool, I mean, um, people know about his quirk since they kind of just said, "Oh, he was born with it. He has a super strength quirk," and blah blah blah. And when Bakugo got his quirk, just like in the anime, he started getting it to his head. This Bakugo will be exactly like the old Bakugo. The only difference is that Deku isn't called Deku, he's called Stretch Boy. Well, he calls him Stretch Boy simply because after a bit, after he got his quirk, um, Bakugo was messing with someone else. Um, oh yeah, I should also say, Jake can resist a lot more things than normal. Like, in one episode, he was hit by lightning, while something else died in that moment, basically getting hit. He just kind of was completely burnt on the floor, but still able to move, so still alive. Um, Fire hurts him, but he's basically not burnt easily by it. Like, it needs a lot of it. So Bakugo's explosion don't harm him that much. They do hurt, but they kind of not burn. And we know he can resist cold a lot, heat a lot. He can resist a lot of pressure. Yeah, pretty much that. So at first, basically, Bakugo tried to attack him once to fight him. Um, Deku beated him since, yeah, strength, and they discovered that he was kind of resistant to the small explosions that Bakugo was doing. Um, where Deku gets his stretching power, well, actually use them for the first time, is when Bakugo uh, and his team, as well as Deku, are in the forest walking and passing over a log. When Bakugo falls, Deku tries to catch him and for the first time extends his arm and make it grow as well. So that's the first time they learn about that. Um, that's the moment where Bakugo decides to call him Stretch Boy. And so basically, they learn that that is a part of his quirk. They look at what he can and can't do. They see that he can basically stretch any part of his body without harm to him. He can basically do anything with his body, actually. He can make his arm do um, a noose and just kind of plops it back all in one go, just kind of absorbing everything in and just making his back arm back normally. Sorry about that. Um, they try to see how resistant he truly is, which what they find out is basically that his resistance, well, a bit resistant to electricity, fire, ice, blah blah blah. He has um, his super strength that he normally has. Um, they found out that, um, well, they did X-ray while he was stretching, and while he was stretching, it was like his bone were kind of like just growing as well. Separating his arm in two, the bones separated in two and basically made new ones. When placing them back together, they just refused. So basically, that's where his bone growth comes from. Um, yeah, basically, they discovered all of that. They changed his quirk from super strength to um, super stretch instead, since he can basically do that all he wants. He can multiply anything on him, multiple mouth, multiple eyes, multiple that, multiple that. He can even stretch and control his hair if he wants to, his nails, his blah blah blah. So basically, they made special clothes that actually stretch with him and shrinks back down. Um, they also asked him if he could shrink down and just grow bigger, like becoming a giant or becoming super small, which he is also capable of doing. So when coming back to school later, like the next time he goes back to school, he basically says that this is the quirk he has, and basically everyone is super impressed because yeah, that's flashy. Basically, he can stretch any part of him, multiply his body as long as it stays attached, and blah blah blah. Bakugo gets mad at this because he is the one with the flashy quirk. He is supposed to be the person that will be the strongest. But everyone's giving attention to Deku, which makes him angry and decides, well, and he decides that he's going to be better than him at any cost. Later, over time, basically, they train their quirk normally. Bakugo's explosions are a bit bigger than in the end. That what they were for him at that age. While Deku's strength basically kept increasing over and over again because he decided that he was going to train everything, as well as he can become stronger anytime he wants just by basically making more muscle. Basically, if he decides to change the size he has, the strength kind of increase or decrease with it. So when he is super small, he still has super strength for his size, but basically a bit less strong. Like Jake can lift, well, every time he shrinks down, he can basically still lift the exact same thing, well, things easily. Like he doesn't even seem to be bothered by it or by the weight. We do see multiple times that he's not strong enough to lift some things. Then in another scene, we just see him grow bigger and lift it as if it was nothing. Like, he's only. In one scene, I think something was stuck under a rock or something like that. He wasn't able to move it. Then he just kind of grew, picked it up, and threw it away. So, increasing his strength increases strength. Increasing his size increases strength. Decreasing it decreases it as well. Just it seems that decreasing it is less strength diminishing. So we take a time skip. Basically, Deku is able to do a lot of things. Deku did try multiple times to basically make wings and stuff like that. He is able to fly thanks to that, since Jake is kind of an idiot. He is intelligent for some things, but for multiple other things, he basically just doesn't think about it. But Deku is intelligent, so he just needs to calculate what size they would need to be and then learn how to control them to basically then be able to fly, which he basically does simply because Deku is a freaking nerd. He doesn't. He basically just did that because he copied one of the kid in one of their schools, the guy with wings, from the first episode where we see Deku being bullied. He basically just copied that and he learned to fly. It is kind of slow, but he can still fly. He trained a massive amount. Like, speed wise, he can move extremely fast. Strength wise, he could probably lift a truck, a like take the front of a car and lift it up, the other side still on the ground, while forcing just a bit. If he increases his muscle, he can lift it a lot easier. He did try to find how much stretch he can do, which I'm going to say that since it's a quirk, he can increase that amount as well. And he trained a lot to do that. So Jake, um, stretching his entire body, basically was able to go for multiple kilometers. So just an arm, he can basically go all the way to space easily. Near the end, it does take a lot out of him, but he basically is able to do that if he wants to. Yes, that's for the ball throw. I'm going to make it so that basically it is infinite, but only for that reason. His speed, he is not as fast as Ida. He can stretch his leg to basically send himself a lot further, a lot faster, but that's basically it. So basically, over time, Bakugo was being um, put down by Deku a lot when he wanted to fight, since he hates the hell out of Deku. He hates him, but he respects him. That's one thing. He wants to beat Deku um, without cheating, and he knows Deku doesn't cheat at all. So basically, he hates Deku, but if anyone tries to insult him, Bakugo kinds of get in that fight just because, yeah, he hates the guy, but he's basically the only person that he thinks is stronger than him. And basically, it's kind of like a All Might Endeavor thing, with Izuku being a lot further than Bakugo, but pushing Bakugo to go further thanks to that. Also, Deku will not get one for all, because that would just be crazy. Um, Bakugo is not going to get one for all, simply because I'm not giving it to him. Basically, it's going to go to Nijire, the girl with well, the girl in the big tree, basically. It's just going to her just because she is the weakest one of the of the big three. And let's say that he wanted to give it to Mirio. Mirio told him to give it to someone else who can be a great hero, so that there can be more um, symbol of peace. And so he gave it to her. Basically, that's how I'm putting it. So, for firstly, All Might catch the sludge villain. Deku didn't go by the tunnel because basically everyone, a lot of heroes knows him because what he's doing is basically stretching himself up and just kind of doing one step, stretching his leg all the way up, stretching the other one to in front of his house, and just kind of does that. A lot of heroes ask him to stop. At some point, they just stop bothering. Sometimes new heroes in the area tries to do something, but other heroes are just like, he's not hurting anyone. He's just going back home from school. He only does that in that moment, so they kind of leave him be. Um, so during the 10 months of training, Deku decided that he was going to just kind of train a bit less than normal. And instead of training strength, speed, and stuff like that all the time, he is intelligent, but he is going to try and see how he could increase this um the well usefulness of his stretching. Basically, like let's say you look at it as a geared turd from One Piece. At first, when Luffy was using it, let's say he was putting it in his hand. About half his arm was also grown bigger, so he had to put a lot more air in it to make it big. After the time skip, even if he doesn't put hockey in it, he's basically able to just put it around his hand and about a small part of his forearm, basically making a lot more, well, a better air, um, well, making it bigger for the same amount of air, basically, as well as increasing the hits. So, yeah, basically, he's trying to look at it like that. Like, just increase the part that you need to, but he's not able to do that since it does still make weight. so he kind of needs to increase his arm muscle as well. So he's trying to find another way to use it. Which, spoiler alert, he does not. Basically, he just thinks, okay, I cannot increase the power, the use, how do you say this already? He cannot change the way he's using it that much. So he decided to increase his speed and strength to basically just do stuff. So for about a half of the 10 months of training, he only trained like a bit, not that much, trying to find a way to use that. What he found is basically increase your size because Jake can get cut, but a cut is easily healed for him for some reason. He still has them, but they're basically closed. Simply because he makes his stretching kind of just closed. So since he can't basically stretch his arm, bone, well, his skin, bone, muscle, cartilage, um, nervous system, and blah blah blah, and just kind of reattach everything. If he separate his arm in two, he can just kind of place it back in one easily. So yeah, Deku found a way to do that. He does not want to try and cut his arm off and try to place it back, because spoiler alert, that wouldn't work unless someone did stitches and blah blah blah. So basically, for 5 months, all he did was find a way to actually suppress most of the damage he would get from physical attack and stuff like that. Basically, increasing the size of that part, kind of like increasing the fat in that place to do like fat gum, basically. Because of all the fat, the hit is a lot less felt, since he can basically stretch anything he wants from his body, so he wants to stretch fat. Done. So for day 5 last month, he increased the amount of strength and speed training that he was doing to a huge amount. Like every time he was able to do it, he was doing it. So basically now, if he wants to stretch, basically if he just wants to grow himself, he could basically be the same size that Mount Lady has, easily, like in the first episode, which his clothes are able to follow. So yeah, basically he can grow big, as well as his strength being humongous. So for the entrance exam, um, written exam easily done. Um, Everything happens the same in the well, while President Mike was speaking, except that Deku wasn't muttering, so that didn't come up. In front of the city, President Mike starts counting. Deku doesn't bother anyone, and when it starts, he basically just stretches himself, and just starts breaking robots. So over time, he just kind of gets a lot of them. When people were in danger and that he was close to them, he was basically stretching to or push them out of the way or grab them and pull them out of the way. All the way up until your Ochako was stuck on the rubble, the zero pointer was unleashed, and when that happened, he basically stretched his arm while running towards her, pushed the stone off, grabbed her, placed her behind him, like further behind him, and once she was on the ground, he basically grew himself kind of like Mount Lady. Well, no, not really like Mount Lady, but basically he grew himself a bit and then just kind of started stretching all around the robot, basically making it hard for the robot to move, and basically just kind of holding him in place while trying to break some of the parts. It is hard for him. But at some point he is able to kind of rip off a part of it. Basically what he was doing was kind of he stretched all around one of the legs and was kind of just trying to break some power piece in it, which he was able to do after a bit, just before President Mike said it finished. He unstretched himself, went to Raka, asked how she was, which she said that she just had a that her ankle hurt. Deku lifted her up and started bringing her to Recovery Girl. And after that, he just kind of left after she said thank you. And later, he got his letter that he was in Class 1A. I'm going to end it here. The next part will be a lot more detailed, a bit more like my other what ifs. Um, so yeah, there's there's one new what if left that I'm not presenting yet. It's going to be I'm going to do it tomorrow at around 2 a.m. So you have all the way up until that point to try and guess. There is one people that knows about it. It's a bit like another what if I have, but completely different at the same time. So yeah, the um basically the world is in My Hero Academia, but the entire world is different. That's what I'm giving you. Try to find it if you want. Natsu out.